welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating and, honestly, a pretty unconventional take on end times prophecy. It challenges that classic fire and brimstone story and suggests something, well, something entirely different is happening.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The first thing you need to do is forget everything you've seen in the movies. The Earth exploding, total annihilation, all of it. The source we're looking at today reframes the whole idea. It's not about the end of the physical world. It's about the end of an era, specifically the end of humanity's will running the show here on Earth. So think of it more like a massive changing of the guard, not the end of everything.
So just to be crystal clear, this source defines the end times as a transfer of power. The idea is that for thousands of years, our flawed human free will has been in the driver's seat. And, well, that time is now coming to an end.
So what's going to replace our will? The text calls it truth with a capital T. And this isn't just about facts and figures. It refers to the fundamental, unchangeable laws of existence, kind of like the universe's operating system, the will of the creator itself. The core problem, according to this perspective, is all about free will. We were given the freedom to choose our own path, and we were even given guidance. You know, the golden rules you find in pretty much every sacred text around the world. But the source argues we didn't really listen. We kind of went our own way. And the results of us going our own way? Well, the source says you just have to look around. We're talking about the endless wars, the hatred, the greed you see in the headlines every single day. Not to mention things like environmental disasters and cruelty. The whole argument is that this paints a picture of a species that has just completely lost its way, unable to solve the very problems it keeps creating. And you know, this isn't just some big abstract societal crisis. It gets personal, deeply personal. This source points to this WHO statistic, over 1 billion people struggling with a mental disorder, as profound evidence that the way we're living is fundamentally out of sync with our own well-being. So all these modern problems, they're seen as the actual prophesied signs that this big change is on the way. The source pulls from different traditions, citing the Bible's mention of warfare and plagues, and also prophecies from the Prophet Muhammad, who talked about a strange combination of massive wealth, right alongside increasing brutality as signs of the end. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The source's unique take on population growth. I mean, we've gone from less than 3 billion people to over 8 billion in under a century. That's incredible. But this view suggests there's a spiritual reason behind that explosion. The explanation for this is pretty out there. It's described as a rush of souls wanting a front row seat for what's coming. Some are supposedly here because they want to encounter this soon-to-be-revealed truth and change their ways. But others, well, they're drawn here for a very different reason. Our planet's lax moral standards. And this leads to a truly startling claim. Citing some spiritual thinkers, the source suggests that up to half the people on Earth today could be these lower-level spirits. Their presence and their influence are offered as the spiritual explanation for why our moral compass seems so broken these days. Okay, this all paints a pretty bleak picture, right? So the crucial question becomes, if that's the diagnosis of humanity's condition, what's the prophesied cure? How is this great transition actually supposed to happen? The very first step in the process, according to the text, is a massive revelation. The prophecy states that pure, unadulterated truth, the actual laws of creation, totally free from centuries of human opinions and misinterpretations, will be made available to everyone. This big reveal then kicks off what the source calls a 3-step purification process. First up, the truth is put out there for everyone. Second, we all have to choose. Each person has to decide if they'll voluntarily let go of their own selfish will. And third, well, there are consequences. Those who refuse to change, the prophecy says, will be removed by force through major world events. And you know, this idea of a huge cleansing upheaval isn't new. The source points to parallels in other traditions to back this up, like this really powerful prophecy from the Incas, which talks about the world being turned upside down before peace can finally return. And this is fascinating. Even modern scientific projections are seen through this prophetic lens. So when scientists today forecast a major drop in the global population over the next few decades, this source interprets that not as a tragedy, but as lining up perfectly with the foretold cleansing of these corrupting influences. So, what about the people who do choose to change and who make it through this purification? For them, a 1,000-year period of intense spiritual schooling begins.
It's known in biblical prophecy as the millennium. It's basically a time to unlearn all our bad habits and finally, fully align with the truth. So, this timeline gives us a pretty clear roadmap of what's prophesied. You've got the chaotic period of purification, followed by the long schooling of the millennium, and it all leads to a final state of harmony, the kingdom of God on earth, where only beings who are completely in tune with the truth can even exist.
But the source ends with a huge warning about this timeline. 1,000 years sounds like an eternity to us, right? But the text is really clear that in the grand scheme of things, it's just the blink of an eye. It's basically saying, don't get comfortable, don't think you have all the time in the world. And that leaves us with one final, very thought-provoking question based entirely on this perspective. If this framework is something to be considered, what does it actually mean for a person to seek out this truth and to change right here, right now, before that clock runs out?